Thank you very much for joining us tonight. On behalf of the Columbia Caucus, it is a great privilege to welcome you all to the John F. Kennedy Jr. Forum. We're here today to listen to a remarkable human being. Sergio Fajardo, Mayor of Medellin, personifies in many ways what the Kennedy School stands for. In particular, he has a true commitment for public service and represents a new and fresh way of exercising politics in Colombia. By walking down the streets of Medellin, giving out flyers at stoplights, buses, and cabs, and listening to citizens' concerns, he was able to deliver a message of change and win the elections. Some said he was crazy and naive for believing in the option of running for office without the support of a traditional political machinery. Others said he lacked experience and that given his PhD in mathematics, he did best by staying in the academia. Today, after a little more than 3 years as a mayor of the second largest city of Colombia, Fajardo has proven his critics absolutely wrong. His energy, devotion, and concern for the people who need the most have transformed Medellin into a city full of new schools, lower crime, and most importantly, where people trust and respect each other. I want to thank you, Mayor, for taking time out to share with us your message of hope and action for the people of Medellin. As a Colombian, I deeply value and appreciate your hard work. If critics insist that you're crazy, let me tell you that we all need more crazy people like you in public service. I also want to thank the conference co-sponsors, the Center for International Development and the Rockefeller Center for Latin American Studies. Let me now turn it over to Ricardo Hausman, Director of the Center of International Development and Professor of the Practice of Economic Development at our dear Kennedy School. I hope you all enjoy the conference.
Thank you very much. That was a very remarkable introduction, so I'll be brief. I guess most Americans know of Medellin as part of the phrase, the Medellin cartel, and would probably think of the most famous Medellin citizen as being Pablo Escobar. But that would be like thinking of Chicago as being the capital of the mafia and Al Capone as being the most famous Chicagoan. There is a remarkable Medellin. The image that Colombians have of Medellin is that Medellin is a city of hardworking people, very creative people. It's a city of Fernando Botero. It's a city of Juanes. It's the city of the current president, Uribe. And I hope that by the end of this talk, you will think of Medellin as the city of Sergio Fajardo. I think I can honestly say that Sergio Fajardo is the most exciting politician of Latin America I've met in many years. I had the pleasure of meeting him about 1.5 years ago or a bit more in Medellin, and I was really impressed at the vision and the programs to implement that vision. It's not just the talk, it's the mechanisms to make that talk a concrete reality for change. Many people, many of my students think that mathematics is not good for your charisma. So a PhD in mathematics, I will let you find out whether it is or isn't an impact on charisma. But I would like to stress that what really impressed me of Sergio Fajardo when I met him, and has caused me to talk about him when I travel through Latin America, is that his vision, first of all, of doing politics in a new way, his vision of hope, his vision of how to implement peace, his vision of how to articulate education throughout government policy and not just in the Ministry of Education, his vision of entrepreneurship as a central concept of how a society moves forward, and his vision of how to make that into a physical reality through urban transformation. All of that, to me, was a real novelty, and I'm extremely excited that today we will be able to share this vision with the broader community here. Thank you. I give you Sergio Fajardo.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure for me to be here representing our city, Medellin, to tell you why Medellin has gone from fear to hope. And of course, I should say first, thanks to Professor Hausman, to the wonderful group of Colombian students that are studying here in Boston. They make us feel proud, and we know that with that quality people, there are many things that we can do in Colombia. Let me tell you what's the problem that we are solving in Medellin. Actually, we have two problems, very easy to state, very difficult to solve. The first one, in Medellin, as in Latin America, we have a very unequal society. I think it's a very unfair society in many aspects. And at the same time, in Medellin, we have a big historical social debt accumulated, and we have to pay that eventually. That's what the first point. And that, as I said, is common to all Latin America. In second place, we in Medellin, painfully, to our sorrow, we have a violence that has deep roots. In Medellin, a very proud city of very proud people like myself, we had violence coming up into our lives at the beginning of the 1980s associated with narco traffic, and something that has changed our history and, of course, Colombia's history. And that violence that we have has deep roots. Just to give you an example, in the year 1991 in Medellin, we had 6,500 homicides, killings in our streets that made us the most violent city in the world, which led to an index that's the one that is used to compare, which we had like 350 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants. That was painful. We saw the face of destruction. We understand perfectly well what violence means and what has happened to us. Those are the two problems that we have to solve. Now, how we do solve those problems? I'll give you the formula, and then I explain you how we implement that formula. The first thing that we have to do is we have to reduce radically violence. And as soon as we reduce violence, we have to come up immediately with the social interventions. We have to have a social transformation so that people can feel it, touch it, see it, and understand that there is a place for them in society in order to be free human beings that can be dignified being part of a city, of our society. That's the formula. Now, with this, we are trying to do the following, and I'll explain you in a second. People who had been in illegal activities related to violence, we open up a door so that they can come back to society. And at the same time, those persons who would be at risk of being part of the violent world will never get in there. That's what it means going from fear to hope. We change the violence, and the hope is the set of social opportunities that we are giving to the people in our city. That's the key point. But you have to do it quickly, immediately, clearly, so that people can see there is a sense for our lives in this society. Now, how do we do that? I'll explain you. We have a statement that characterizes our administration, which is Medellin, the most educated. We have to have the most educated city in the world. Now, what we have to do is broaden up the notion of education. Usually, when we talk about education, we think of the school system, traditional school system. What we have to do then is broaden up that concept, include science, technology, cultural activities in all senses, productive development, civic participation, and entrepreneurship, for example, as part of the concept. So when we understand education in those terms, we have a deep change, because usually within the context of politics, when people think about education, they think this is a mid and long-term investment. That's terrible, because in politics, very rarely people will think in mid-term or long-term investment. Politicians, who are the ones that make the most important decisions in society, it's very difficult to find one that will look that long range. But when we use education in the sense that I just mentioned, then things happen right away. And we open up doors so we have the social transformations. Now let me give you a list of those social interventions that we are carrying out in Medellin that are our pride, that are showing how a city can transform itself. The first one, in Colombia, the national government is carrying out a process of negotiating and demobilization of paramilitary groups. That's something very complex, very difficult, very complicated to say the least. In Medellin, we have 4,000, a little more than 4,000 of those guys, men, roughly speaking, between 16 and 25 years old. That group of people, more than 4,000, we have them in Medellin. And what we have done in Medellin is the following. They demobilized, they handed on their guns, and what we are carrying out is a process of reintegrating them to society. That's extremely difficult. But we decided in Medellin, if that's what is happening, we didn't take that decision, we didn't make that decision. That was the national government. But we said, let's make it work in Medellin. Instead of finding problems with it, which is fairly simple, to find problems to every single thing in life, we put all of our energy and our creativity in order to say, let's make it work. And we have done it in a way that has the following characteristics. First one, each one of them, we know who he is, where he lives, what he does. Each one of them, single individuals, each one is taken into account. When we have that, then we can give them psychological assistance. If you take a look at those guys, most of them have very deep psychological troubles for many, many reasons. So we attend each one of them. Then we have a social intervention with their families and their communities. In Medellin, we have a group of more than 100 people, psychologists, social workers, and so on, working with this community, making sure that they are going back to society. Reintegration is very complex. Then for every one of them, every single one, we have some sort of educational program. You take a look at this guy, he didn't finish primary school, then we design something special so that they can improve their education. Whatever they have, it has to be better. They have been out for many years. It's not that you give them a job so that they wouldn't be in the criminal world. You have to transform them so that they have tools in order to be part of society. So to every single one of them, we give them, design for them a special educational program. And then, as we move with the psychological assistance, with the educational program, we graduate them. Slowly, we are getting back them to society. This is complex, but it's very worthwhile, and we have done it, and we have put a lot of effort, economic resources, of course, and it gives us a very good result. Let me show you why. We start up with 4,000. Let's say that 90% of them are working well within this program. 10%, they don't work. But a problem that originally had 4,000 people, we have reduced it to 400. And that makes life far simpler for us. This police has to go back to the places where they didn't work. Respecting human rights to people in Medellin, then the police has to be, again, the part of the legal state that gives us security in every single space of the city. No one outside the legal institutions should have any sort of power in any place in the city of Medellin. That has been very useful. So people ask me, the peace in Medellin has to do with the paramilitary groups? And I said, of course, obviously, we're working with them, and we are making that work. Secondly, we go to the school system. In Medellin, 20% of the school system is private. 20% of a population of the higher positions, sectors in society go to private school, 80% go to public school. That 80% has an education that is of higher quality than the one that the 80% of our society receives. That makes sure that if we continue that way, we are going to have a society that is going to be more and more unequal through time, because we know that it's in the quality of education that we get that we are going to give people the ability to be part of society. With that division that we have, we are guaranteed that we are going to be unequal, unfair, and whatever comes out of that unequal society will come out in Medellin. So we are making a huge effort in order to change those conditions. We have to make public education with the highest quality. And we say that Medellin has to have very high quality education, and it has to be the same for every single one. In other words, it's not a privilege, but it's a right of every single person in Medellin. Now, that is easy to say. Now, how do you do that? We are going through something very excruciating through the school system, beginning from 3 years old, instead of waiting until they are 6 years old in order to get to formal school. And we go through a program that puts all the quality of education, what we know that means a quality education, together in all the schools. We sign with the schools a quality pact. We involve the principals, the teachers, the students, the families, the state. We get the private sector taking part in this transformation. But for every single school, we have a quality pact that makes sure that all the resources, all the people are tuned in order to better the condition that we have in our schools. And we continue. We go on to higher education. Nobody in Medellin can be just a high school grad. We have to continue. That sounds obvious here, but in our society it hasn't been. That's part of the inequality that we have had. A society that is split with a very small group that has plenty of things, and from then on people who are trouble coping up with life in many different aspects. That's one of the programs that we are carrying out. And in Medellin, we have to mobilize the whole society. We have to change people's mentality, because usually at the highest sectors, the problem was, where am I going to take my kid? Now we have changed something that seems, again, small, but it's huge, which is where I'm going to take the kid and where this person's kids are going to go. And they are part of the same dream that we have in Medellin. Understanding that, that's a crucial step that we have. Third, we have a program that is the culture E-culture, which means the culture of entrepreneurship, which means how are we going to change, translate knowledge, whichever knowledge that we have, into a productive activity. We know, and we know perfectly well, that our people have to be able to come up with the best education, with the best quality of education, and they have to come up with ideas in order to be taken care of by themselves. So we have a program that goes from the neighborhoods. So the humblest neighborhoods in Medellin, we have a program that is supported by a microcredit network with educational program for entrepreneurship at the very basic level. The humblest person in Medellin can be taught something about how to put together their ideas in order to translate them into productive activities. And then we create special places in the city, in their towns, in the neighborhoods, where they get together and they receive all this information. Then we move on to high school. How are we going to create a culture so that our students from the very beginning knows what it means to be an entrepreneur? And then we move to the university so that we have to change something that has been traditional, I think, in Latin America. The guys, the kids from the richest people, the highest sector of society, they naturally know what to be an entrepreneur is. But the poorest people, they have no idea what it means to create their own activity. And that's socially unfair. So what we are doing is everyone in Medellin, at the same time that we should all have high quality of education, then every single one should have the tools in order to be entrepreneurs regardless of the social condition. And we continue, so as I said, from the neighborhood, high school, the last 2 grades, how we create this culture, which we have a beautiful program called Semillero of Entrepreneurs. I don't know how to say semillero in English. Then we go to the university. We have the Entrepreneurship Park in Medellin at the largest public university, so that from that point on, we create that culture. Every single student in Medellin, when they get to school, they have to know at the university level what it means to be an entrepreneur. And from then on, the way they are going to be educated is completely different from what we traditionally had. And then at the highest level, our scientific developments, they are all working on having the ability to create from knowledge productive activities. And finally, a program that is crucial, and that's the one that you have seen behind me all the time. Let me give you the idea. In Medellin, we had seen violence. And what we are doing is we are having an urban transformation in the city. So in those places where we saw the destruction, where we saw that people didn't have any hope, those places that are associated with destruction, as I said, we are cleaning those spaces. And we are building a new places for the city, new monuments, new symbols, the symbols of hope. And what you are seeing in there is exactly what we are doing. And let me explain you what you have seen right behind of me. First of all, we, at the places where we had the lowest standards of living, we have created huge, beautiful park libraries. Parks, because we have to get together. In Medellin, we have to get together. In order to fight against violence, we had to put people, regardless of the condition, let's make sure that you get to see each other. Violence, usually what happens with it is people retract, they hide, and then everyone is a foreigner to you in the same place where you live. So we have to redefine the space. We have to get to public space. That's where we human beings are all the same. And we have to get together. So we have built 5 wonderful, beautiful spaces. Park libraries. Park because men and women can go there. It's not just a space, as very common in Latin America, for men. We have to go all together. And in that space, you get to a park library, and then when you get in there, you have internet for everyone, for free. You have the books. You have the room, which is called the neighborhood room, so that the story that we have had is there. You have the beautiful auditorium, where they can have all the cultural activities that they have never had in their lives. We have this place that is called the Cedeso, where is the microcredit network is working so that people can get there from their space in order to receive the instruction about how to be an entrepreneur, even the humblest person in Medellin, and they will get all the support. It's an educational program for people at a different space. So suddenly, in the humblest part of the city of Medellin, you have the most beautiful buildings. Those buildings will be beautiful here, in Madrid, in Berlin, wherever. Absolutely wonderful. And the message is very powerful because we are telling people, we are caring for you. We care for you. It's not that what usually has happened is because they are poorer, then they should get poorer things. We get the best things in Medellin, go to the humblest places in the city. It's a message of inclusion. It's a message of we care for your development. You are part of this society. So we have built those wonderful buildings. You may have seen them around there. Sometimes you see a picture. That, for example, is a small park in a very crowded part of Medellin, which was a garbage disposal. We designed it with the community, and we designed this. Some points of encounter. We have to redefine a space, clean it, and build something new, but something related to this Medellin, the most educated. So, for example, we are building the most beautiful schools in those places that they never dreamed this could be happening in front of their eyes. But in those neighborhoods, suddenly this beautiful building means hope, because in those beautiful buildings, we are building something that has the highest quality of education, also put inside there, and those places become the point of reference to people. It's not a soccer field. I love soccer, I would like to play it, but it's not a soccer field, the point where we get together. It's at a school with no barriers, open up to the whole community, and that school that we are building is much better to begin with than the school that the most privileged kids in our town would go to. And the message again is, in this society, we're giving opportunities to people. And that's very powerful. And it begins with the physical infrastructure, but we are redefining Medellin. We are building the 21st century constructions that we have in order to come up with our future. That's what is happening in Medellin. So as I mentioned, in 1991, we had 350 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants. Last year, we had 30 per 100,000 inhabitants. That's quite a change. That's diminishing violence. We still have a way to go. We are now below the average of Latin American cities comparable to Medellin. This year, we should end up with 25 per 100,000 inhabitants. But what I have said here is we have decreased violence. We have taken people out of the violent world. We have opened up a doors so that they can come back to society. We are preventing people to get into the violent work, and we are having a social transformation. That's the reason why I came here, why I can very proudly say Medellin is going from fear to hope, and that's our city, and we hope you can go there to see with your own eyes a wonderful transformation of a beautiful city. Thank you very much.
As I was listening to you, I was wondering, what is the U.S. government planning to do in Iraq? Well, we have time for questions. We have 4 microphones, 2 down here and 2 out there. So the floor is open for questions, so feel free. Well,
hello. Yes. Well, my name is Nicolas. I'm a student at the Kennedy School from Argentina. First, really congratulate you on your inspiring words. It's really a delight to hear you. And while you were talking about this, I was wondering, what do you think is the private sector's role in this transformation that you're having in Medellin?
The first thing is the following. The private sector, people have to pay taxes so that we have the money to build the whole thing. That's a way of being part of a society. It's serious, because what we have done, for example, in Medellin, is we have improved the number of people who pay taxes. They are paying their taxes on time, and those who didn't pay are paying now. So we have far more money, and the thing is that we haven't stolen a single peso in Medellin, which is something that is crucial, is don't be part of the corruption, because the corruption, which will be, when you have a corrupt state, is like erasing these beautiful buildings that I showed you there. They wouldn't exist. What we do with the private sector is the following. For every single project that we have in the city, we look around and say, who are the persons, the institutions, the organizations that would have to do with this subject? And we bring them together in a way that for every single theme in Medellin, we build a network of people and institutions that can contribute to make things better. That's the way we act. It's not that the government by itself is doing the things, because that's the power. Usually it was understood that if I put the money, I put the conditions, and I do whatever I want to do, and I don't pay attention to the other ones. We bring them. So program by program, we are calling some businessmen, some enterprises that will be part of this solution. For example, in the quality programs that we have for schools, in every school, we have a business that will be part of the program to improve the quality. But they would never go there to privatize or say that it's bad. For example, in Medellin, by definition, when we began our term, we said all the school teachers in Medellin are good. We defined that. And from then on, we began working with them. Of course, they weren't all good, but we said it clearly. We treated them as if they were all good, and we began working. So, for example, the private sector would come to support this transformation process in each school, but respecting people, making stronger the public sector, because that's the message. The public sector has the one that has to carry out the biggest responsibility, and I think every single program, we will get support of whoever has the ability to make the programs better.
I'm a freshman here at the college, and my parents are both originally from Medellin. And I just had a social question regarding the fact that, considering that Medellin is one of the strongest centers of modeling, especially in Colombia, there's been a pressing problem now with the youth and problems with eating disorders, as well as excessive use of plastic surgery, especially for 15-year-old women or younger. Is there anything that you're doing to address this problem and possibly look towards fixing that for the future for females in Colombia?
Well,
I think that
I
was
don't
a
know
very
you.
appropriate question.
I don't know
I
you.
know the answer.
But I know the answer very well. Here is my wife, and she's the woman who is leading in Colombia a real fight, and I use the word real fight, against the use of women because of their beauty. And the implications that when you regard women directly related to their bodies and not their minds, what happens in society. In particular, she has been working very hard in Medellin, as you mentioned, which you are completely right. We have had several campaigns against, I don't know how you say this in English, anorexia bulimia. That's the way in Spanish. But you can talk to her and she will explain it to you. But let me give you an example that shows the matter that we are talking about here. In Medellin, when we got to office, we had a beauty contest. That is very popular in Latin America, in Venezuela too.
But we win.
And the thing that happened was the former mayor had the Medellin queen, the beauty queen. So the first thing that we did when we got to office was I said it publicly, there is no more Medellin beauty queen. There is no single public peso that will go into beauty contests. And we finished that right away. And what we did was we created something that we call the talent contest for women from 16 to 25 at the same age that they were looked at as queens, and we will be very proud of our queen. Instead of that, we had this talent contest so that we will socially dignify and choose women at that age that would excel in sports, science, research, community development, and cultural activities, etc. So we changed from beauty to minds.
How are other big Colombian cities reacting to your initiatives? Are they jealous, intrigued, inspired?
Well, I know that we are doing something powerful in Colombia. And this way of acting has many people that really look at us at the beginning with curiosity. Because we didn't belong to any political party. I myself never took part in politics until very old, where we said politicians are the ones who make the most important decision in a society. We can spend the rest of our lives complaining and saying politicians are bad, or we take in our hands our future. And we decided to participate, and we created a civic movement outside the traditional political parties. So people look at the beginning, they have looked at us with curiosity. Medellin is a very complex city, of course, as you may suspect. We have 2.5 million people with all these problems, but it's absolutely wonderful. So little by little, in Colombia, they are paying attention to us, and they are finding a new way of doing things, a new way we relate to the population. Our emphasis is we have to build, we have to construct, we have to put things together. We have spent quite a lot of time destroying things in Colombia. And our spirit, our civic spirit means let's get together and let's do some things together. And we show how and what. So that's a long answer to say they are paying attention to us. We feel there is plenty of sympathy. Of course, in the political context, as we move up, as more people pay attention to us, we end up having more enemies because they see us as rivals. And suddenly, I never thought I would be the mayor of Medellin. I have never thought I would be president of Colombia. But suddenly we have the spotlight, and they are looking at us. And I think we are doing something wonderful. Most people, common human beings, like what we are doing. In some other places, they are sort of surprised. They don't like it very much because we are showing a different way of doing things in Colombia, in politics and the government actions.
Hi, my name is Carolina Urrutia. I'm a student here at the Kennedy School. I want to hear a little bit more about your personal decision to go into politics. As you said, you never expected it. You did it outside the traditional parties. How was that decision made?
I am a mathematician. As Ricardo said, I got my PhD in mathematical logic at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. and I used to be full-time professor, tenured professor in Colombia. And I was a scientist going through the world, showing our theorems, my theorems, very happy doing mathematics, which is absolutely lovely, of course. But when I say we, as a group of 50 people in Medellin, we were always concerned about the things that happen in society. Why things are this way and they are not other way. I will be, for example, part of the Colombian Basic Science National Council, and many things trying to help, writing newspaper columns and things like that, creating an opinion in Colombia about the importance of education, the importance of science and things like that. But we did a lot of work, but we will eventually ended up looking for a politician who will do what we have constructed. So after all these attempts with people trying to run for the city council, for example, and never winning any elections, we said, well, let's get together and let's go. And I, myself, that had never taken part in any political election, I have never campaigned for anything in my life, we said, well, we have to get together, let's organize, and we have to go, and we have to make sure that we win the election in Medellin in order to be the mayor of Medellin. I was the leading man of this group of people, and let's do it. But it was because we were stubborn, because we said, why do we have to go through the steps that we have gone throughout our life? And we said, things can be done. And that's why, as Diana said, people will tell me, you are crazy. This guy, you are a scientist, recognized in society, you have a very bright future, you may even be minister someday. And then we went out to the streets. We didn't have money, we didn't have the political machinery, and we said people would have to come out of their homes. And we went out there finding them. And we got in touch with people, explained what we have constructed. We explained them why we wanted to be part of the solution of the problems that we had in society. And we did it day by day. That's something that I have learned. Being a scientist, if there is something that you have to have is discipline, passion, conviction about the things that you're doing. And we carried out all those conditions to politics. And we went out in the streets. I remember, just as an example, the first time that we heard on national television, the national polls, the first time that I heard my name for Medellin, here are the polls. Sergio Fajardo, that's my name, 0%. Well, that day we walked even longer. And we came out, everyone was working for free. I remember this sensation. I haven't gone through that. It's not very pleasant. With all the people around you looking at you and saying, today we have to work harder. And that's what we did. We never win in any of the polls that we had in Colombia. A week before the election, in October 2003, it was called a technical tie. And we defeated the guy who came up second by more than 110,000 votes. And we got the highest vote in Medellin history. We won in all the neighborhoods in Medellin, poor, rich, whatever. We won in all of them. But we had to walk through every single one of them. We didn't pay anyone anything for the vote. We went directly to persons. We established a relationship, looking at their faces, shaking their hands, and saying, that's what we are. So it can be done. But as usual, it's not that easy. But if you want, you can do it.
Thank you. My name is Juan Andrés Garcia, and actually you briefly touched in your speech providing entrepreneurial tools to large parts of the population. I was wondering if you could expand a little bit more in your microcredit initiatives or in your entrepreneurial centers, and if it is unreasonable to perhaps think if angel investors or early stage investors help you supporting these ventures.
Okay. Let me concentrate on the very basic one. At the poorest neighborhoods in Medellin, Now, in Medellin, and I would say in Colombia, people have ideas. They are not just sitting at home saying, let's wait for God to give us what we have to get. So will people come out? They are used to come up with some things, sell things, build things. So what we have done is the following. Let's get them together and offer them some sort of instruction. Most of them are people who came from the countryside to Medellin several years ago. There are some who are coming due to the violence factors in the countryside in Medellin. Many of them have come to the city. But they have plenty of abilities. So what we do is the following. We come up and say, we are going to have a seed capital contest for microcredits that goes from $25 up to 5 millones de pesos? $2,000. From $25 to $2,000. And what we did and what we designed was the following. We have a seed capital contest for microcredit. We created first the network, the microcredit network. At the beginning, there was a bank, the Pulse Bank in Medellin, that belonged to the administration, and we said, that doesn't make sense. Let's call all the institutions in Medellin that have microcredit programs, and we put all of them together. So we opened up the doors and said, we have this contest. Now, in order to take part in the contest, you have to go through an 80 hours course about being an entrepreneur. So we made sure that everyone that wanted to have a microcredit or maybe win this $2,000 prize, they would have to go through an educational program. So they will go through it. So we will have like 3,000 people taking each course. At the end, we will just have 150 winners. But every one of them took the course. So they immediately, even they didn't win, they went to the microcredit network. And in the microcredit network, we had the people who are established that know how to handle them. So they began, all these guys that used to work to this Pulse Bank with, I have an idea, please give me the money. And many times that will be associated with having a political friend that will say, why don't you lend this guy money because he's my friend. So we changed that completely. They would come up with their business plan. They had gone through the course. They had now had business plans. And most of them are receiving microcredits for their developments. So a few of them won, but most of them got the education needed in order to change their minds. And at the same time, we built in the neighborhoods, the poorest neighborhoods, those places where they could go to. It's not that in downtown we will have all the people moving from their neighborhoods downtown to learn, but in their own places. So when they go there, that's part of the urban transformation. There's a new place here in our neighborhood. That's the place where the microcredit is. That's the place where we have the opportunities. That's the place where we learn. People who you could never expect them to learn anything, they will be trained there. So that's the way it has worked. Now we have beautiful programs like going door by door, telling them, look, this is what it means to be an entrepreneur. The humblest person in Medellin. And for that, of course, it's very useful to have the network, because every single one of those companies or institutions that belong to the network, before that, they were by themselves. They were looking for their clients. Now we put all of them together, and we went all together to find the people. So that explains something that the first question that I had. We multiply the possibilities. We go through some educational process, and we give them opportunities.
Good evening. My name is Tony Sadek, and I am a first-year student here at the Kennedy School. I want to thank you for coming here and sharing your remarkable vision with us. I imagine your job is tremendously difficult, and I wonder what the biggest or hardest trade-offs have been for you in terms of resource allocation in your job as mayor in your pursuit of your vision.
I'm going to say something that may sound strange. The problem hasn't been money. We need money, and if you give me more money, we will do plenty of things. But the problem in Medellin is not that we have to have money in order to do things. As I said, we have collected taxes like never before. We have economic resources, and we have been able to do the investments that we planned at the very beginning. Now, let me add something from my personal experience. I had never had any public office position before. That, for example, during the campaign, in order to attack me, they would call me professor. It's serious. It was an insult. And they said, it's impossible. How come a mathematics professor could be the mayor of Medellin? We need a manager. And what we have shown is when you get the people that share this vision, very well prepared. All the members of my cabinet came from different walls, but none of them had had any relation to government before. They were smart, very honest, they were convinced, and they were willing to do their work. We got together and we understood that we had the money, we have the people, and there are some obstacles that appear every single day. But when you have those conditions, there is no problem. You solve all the problems. Sometimes we have to swallow different situations, difficult situations, that's what I mean. But we have done it, and I think it's very remarkable. It is difficult, but I wouldn't change it for anything in my life.
Good evening. I was wondering if you have read Amnesty International's report on the paramilitaries in Medellin,
Sure.
which argues that the so-called demobilization has not dismantled the paramilitary structures, it has simply re-engineered them. And yes, murder rates have gone down, but just about every major human rights organization, international and Colombian, argues that the government and the paramilitaries are still collaborating in human rights violations like assassinations, massacres of human rights activists, torture, disappearances, and so forth.
Yeah, I have read them, and I have studied them, and I have argued with them. And that's why I went to London, and I sat with Mr. Pollack, for example, from Amnesty International, and I took the report and line by line said, let's go through this statement and see whether it's true, what is false, and what has happened. Because it's a mixture of things. You put in a single bag many things, as you have done just right now. There's a national government, you talk about massacre, violation of human rights, and everything, and you put that in a bag and say, that's Medellin or that's Colombia, and that's unfair. Not only is unfair, but it's not true. Now, there are things that happen. That's the problem with these statements, because there are things that are partially true. We have problems. We do have problems. And I can show you where we have them and how we are trying to solve them. In Medellin in particular, in the Comuna 13, we know where we have the problems. We know that we have to intervene then. There is no single person in Colombia that can say that my government would be against human rights, because I myself believe in human rights, because I think there are human rights and we have to respect them. Because in order to do what I just said here, we have to care for people. It's not just a definition, or we have to come out in order to be able to, I have to say this in order to come out. That's what we believe in. But then you make a mistake when you generalize, and when you put all these things together in a bag, and then you destroyed all what we have done here, saying that this is what Amnesty International said. There are things that are true. We know where we have violations of the processes. We know where we have had troubles. And that's true, but it's partially true. Then you are at a university, which I remember that I mentioned this to the people in Amnesty International because I read the report line by line and said, let's go through this line. Let's argue about this, but with arguments. And I was telling them that we were sitting at the city where Bertrand Russell worked, who was a logician. And here we have very good arguments. So, for example, you come up with a generalization. Then you generalize and say, the people, the reinsertados in Medellin. But there are 4,000. And I know that there are 400 that are not playing fair. And we are working on trying to get those 400 to pay what they have for what they do. With the police, with the judicial system, we have to get the legal institutions to do their work. That's what has happened in Colombia. We have to recover the legal state to do the things. No, that somebody from the outside do whatever they want. And that's what happened. So I have read and I can answer every single question that you may have about Medellin. Now, there are discussions about the national government. We are different governments. Medellin, as a mayor, we represent and do some things. The national government does, they do other things. But in order to have a good discussion about that, we have to be very careful, because it's very easy, with a single statement, destroy all our work, and so to the world, we appear as criminals, massacres, and that is unfair. Moreover, it's not true. What is the evidence? But you go to Medellin. I'm showing you. And I'm showing you.
It's Amnesty International, it's Human Rights Watch, it's the Colombian Commissioner of Jurists. It's not me that is making these generalizations. I'm just going by what the major human rights organizations say.
Okay, as I said, we go one by one about Medellin. And I respond one by one. And I'll tell you where we have problems. Because we have problems. As I'm mentioning, there are some places where some former paramilitary are still trying to act. And we have to go there. And they killed a woman who was a member of Junta de Acción Comunal?
Community group.
Something, a community organization. We know, and I'm trying very hard to make sure that the guy who did it goes to prison. And I know who killed her. And we have to respect the judicial system, because it's not that I say, this guy did it and have him killed. And I know that. And I know that Haider Amir was killed 5 months ago. And I know where he was killed. And we are working, and I'm trying very hard to make sure that the guy who killed him pays for it. And you ask me for any single thing about Medellin, and I will respond. And I will say, yeah, this is true. In this particular case, this happened. But, as I said, we had 4,000. 3,600 are working well, getting better every day. There are 400 that are cheating on us. Then, we have to concentrate on that. But that doesn't destroy what we are doing. That means that we have to focus on this thing. But I'll give you an advice. I believe in human rights. I believe in Amnesty International. I think they do a wonderful job. And they have to do it. And we have to have the pressure of the whole world so that we respect human people's life and human rights. But be careful, because we are working very hard. And we cannot be said just by a statement saying, you are this. I say, that's completely unfair. We are working very hard, and we are trying to respect people's lives, making people's lives much better. But you have to be responsible for what the things that you do, because it's very easy to stand up here and say about Colombia this, and ciao. That's what Colombians are. And no, we are working very hard. We have problems. Help us solve the problems. But don't come out with a statement and destroy all our work.
Let me remind the audience that questions come one per customer.
Hi, Mayor Fajardo. My name is Igor Berenboim. I am a PhD student in economics here, and I am Brazilian, very proud to be Brazilian, but not very proud about our crime rates in our major cities. And the statistics that you cited about Colombia sound wonderful and sound like magic to me. And I wonder what the magic is to lower crime rates, and I mean, what's the role of the police? What's the role of reducing inequality? Thank you.
It's a mixture, as I said. The formula is you have to reduce violence. In Colombia, before we came to power, we had this national process with the paramilitary groups, demobilization. They have been one factor of destruction in Colombia, and still in some parts are. That's true. Now, what we did in Medellin was we get 4,000 guys who had been in that war, and we have been working very hard day by day to open up a door so that they can come back to society. That's a reintegration process. But you have to do it. Now, it is painful and difficult because you are sitting in front of people who have violated the laws. Now, the reality that we have is that our states haven't been able to take care of those situations within the legal state. So when you stop and when you negotiate, you are going through something very complex, because right in front of you, you are seeing all the mistakes that the society has made. But you have to go through it if you decide to do it. So we have been very careful in that reintegration process. Complex, difficult, painful many times for us, because you are sitting in front of one person who has destroyed. But that's the decision that you made, and what we do is let's make it work so that this guy doesn't destroy more. So for example, when you said something, and I don't mean to offend you, when you said they are killing less, but listen, every single life that we save in Colombia is important. We cannot just say they are killing less. We have to kill less and less and less and every single day. Human beings that we're saving. Some other things, we are changing the problem. We are reducing the problem. We are changing the context so that we can act. So that's the key point. But, as I said, you have to come up with the social interventions right away. And last week, actually, we had a visit in Medellin of two governors from Brazil, the governor of Rio de Janeiro, Sergio Cabral, and the governor of Minas Gerais, Aécio Neves. And they went with me, and they went there, they walked through these places, some of the ones that you saw here, and they are working on something that we have shared with them, explaining how we do these social interventions, how changing the conditions at a place improve people's lives. But that's what we are seeing right now. Would you put all the development tools in a place, all of them together, integrally, and then the way I like to explain this is the following. It's like sitting and you take a look at a plant and you see how it grows. When you put all of the tools together, it's amazing to see how things begin to change.
Thank you. Mi nombre es Carlos Marin. So I am a PhD student at Clark University and a doctoral in international development. I'm Paisa, very proud of being Paisa and happy that you are the mayor of Medellin. As a part of my dissertation, I've been working on the motivations for people to be part of the guerrilla and paramilitary groups. And I interviewed some people from Medellin, men and women. And of course, like the factors that make them to get into those groups are very complex and multidimensional. But one of the things that kind of struck me is like what participants mentioned about, police or corruption or abuse. Many of the, like for example, of 60 people I interviewed, 36 spoke of...
We need a question.
Excuse me?
We need a question.
I'm going there. It's a little...
Quick.
So they said that the police, they got into those groups because the police and the army in some way, they were abused by them. So they told me horrible stories, for example, of police tangle with guns, paramilitary groups. The question is, the police and some agencies in Colombia or these kind of institutions have been very corrupted. So my question is how you, as a mayor, and all you have said, have handled this to guarantee that police is really honest and respect people. And
okay, it's a good question. I'm serious. We have to face reality and see what has happened to us. If we change it or we think it's something else, we solve the problem that we don't have to solve. Some of the things that you said have happened. Now, don't forget, I said at the beginning of the 1980s, narco-traffic came into Colombia's life. It's 27 years now. And we have gone through several stages. When they came into society, they appeared that like something remarkable. We didn't know what it was. And then they used their power At the beginning, they tried, some of them tried, and some of them succeeded, getting involved with politics in order to be more powerful. They bought many institutions. They bought many persons in Colombia in the sense of they corrupted part of our life, in particular the police or the military. Now, what I think is things are getting better. I wouldn't say that there is no corruption in the police now, but I'm sure that it's far less than what we used to have. So please take into account that we are going through stages and we are going, and I think we are advancing with difficulties. I have many differences with the president, things that I wouldn't agree with him, but in Colombia I think we are moving in the right direction. With difficulties, as I said, and I would do many things differently than the way they are done right now. But I think institutions are getting better and better. It doesn't mean that the problems are solved. So for example, I never thought in my life that I would work with a policeman. I don't know anyone from the academic world that will think that they will be talking to policemen. Well, what we did from the very beginning, from the very first day, was we had to work together. Because if we want to respect human rights, we have to talk to them. The worst thing that you can do is they are on their own and I am on my own and on my side. We work together. I call the general who is in charge of the police in Medellin every single day to tell me what happened, why this happened. Let's think with the human rights defender. Let's sit, that's what I meant. Let's get together. Why are we doing these things? Why this happened? The people in the city called me and said they mistreated this person, and I immediately called him and said, why this happened? I have this information. So I think, and it's my own experience, it has been very rewarding, but you have to take them into account and work with them. The worst thing that you can do is make sure that they are very far away from you, and then many things can happen. When you respect people, including policemen, the institution, they react. Things can happen in Medellin, but I'm sure that it's much better right now.
My name is Gary Berman. I just want to offer a counterbalance to the Amnesty International point of view and to speak from personal testimony, because Medellin is a wonderful city. I've been there and I love Colombia. I ended up marrying a Colombian woman. So that's personal testimony. Thank you. She's very intelligent and beautiful, by the way.
Like mine.
My question is, given the difficulties that Medellin has had and the statistics that place Medellin historically have placed you below everywhere else, how are you planning to reach out to the global community, the investment community, to kind of change the image of your brand, if we can use Medellin as kind of a brand, to attract capital so that the microloans are magnified and there are markets for the products and services that your people are creating?
By coming here, for example. I've gone through different places in the world and I have explained this carefully. I have taken the time to show what we are doing, recognizing that we still have problems, of course. We have obstacles every single day, but we are moving in the right direction. And when we know where we are going, and with all the energy that we have, we get together to get to that place, we get there. That I'm sure. And actually we do it very fast, very quickly. So what is happening is the number of people who are visiting Medellin is amazing. The way that we have more and more visitors every single month is amazing. And whoever comes to Medellin and spends some time there, then when they go outside, they talk about Medellin. And that's the best way to do it. It takes time, but that's the same way we did politics. We went to the streets one by one, handing out a leaflet saying, this is what we want to do, and spreading the word about Medellin. And that's what I tell you, everyone, come to Medellin. I come here once, and then I said, next time I see you, I'll see you in Medellin. This past week, we had in Medellin the Queen of Spain, the King of Spain, and they visited Medellin. They have never been there. They are a symbol of friendship among Latin Americans and Spain. And they came to our city and they went to the inauguration of this wonderful park library in the poor sector of town with the name of Park Library Spain. And he came there, and the whole Hispanic world learned about what we were doing in Medellin. That's the way we are showing the world our city, how we are moving from fear to hope. That's
Thank you very much for coming. I'm Tomás Recart from Chile, and I'm very pleased to see Latin Americans here in the forum. My question... My question is that local governments seem to have a lot of understanding of the real problems of the people, but not always the optimal amount of power to do things. So what do you think is the optimal amount of power for local governments, and what does it take for a country to distribute the power in that way?
I would say that in Colombia, we have plenty of local power. In Colombia, I don't know other places. We do have. And I have no complaints. We have the ability to act in people's lives. And at the municipal level in Colombia, our constitution gives us a lot of opportunities. I understand perhaps Colombia is the most decentralized country in Latin America, and we have plenty of local power in Colombia. For example, I understand in Chile, the national government runs this capital. It's different.
Local governments seem to feel that they just execute what the central government does.
We have plenty of room to come up with these programs, to carry those programs in our own. We collect some of our taxes. We get from the national government, we get some money, but we also collect from our people, and we have the ability to design many of these policies that I mentioned here are designed by ourselves, and those are our decisions. And there are some programs that we cooperate with the national government, but in Colombia, I think we have plenty of power.
This is going to be the last question now.
I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Diana Montoya Fontalvo. I'm a senior here in the college. I was hoping you could say a few words to us as students, since a lot of us here are students. As a very proud Paisa and Colombiana living here in the United States, I've noticed a lot of things about how people are proud, and they send emails about how Colombia is great and why Colombia is not like the main image. But I've always felt that there is something more we can do as students, that sometimes we get stuck in these ruts of discussions, and these discussions don't have any impact beyond our ivory tower, so to speak. So I was hoping you could say a little bit more. You have such concrete plans for people in Medellin, but maybe you could extend some advice for us over here.
Sure. Study a lot. Knowledge is very precious. People who have studied carefully, who have developed the ability that you develop here, when they go to public life, make a difference. You can see this guy studied. And it's very important you study quite a lot and learn many things and see many things in the world, but you have to go back to your country. And when you go back to your country, take part in politics, because you have to change it. That's the formula.
Well, this unfortunately comes to an end. I said at the beginning that Sergio Fajardo was the most exciting politician I had seen from Latin America in a long time, and that it was really a privilege for the Kennedy community and the Harvard community at large to get to listen to him. I hope that he has left with you an impression that might affect how you conduct the rest of your lives. Thank you very much.